Listen to my podcast about sports.
Howdy, Ags. AP, Corey from the Tailgate, home of Aggie Football.
That's right.
Brought to you by David Coffin PLLC, tax controversy and litigation lawyers, smart solutions for federal tax issues, experienced, respected representation for taxpayers, over 20 years of experience in tax controversy with offices located in South Lake, Texas, and now opening here in Bryan College Station. Call 817-251-7049. Folks, don't forget, contact us at agstailgate@gmail.com. Do you know the address?
No,
No,
don't
don't
know.
know. It's agstailgate@gmail.com. Visit us over on the YouTube page. Leave us a comment. Subscribe. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yep.
Whatever. All right?
Spotify,
Find us.
whatever that's called.
Yeah. We're listening to it. Starting off with a comment from the fan base today. Our buddy Parr, repeat commenter, says kicking on third down is offensive genius.
He's a genius.
Genius. All right.
He's our offensive coordinator next year.
A couple of comments. A&M basketball, 2-0 in the SEC, wins over LSU in Florida. Dexter Dennis, Boots, really playing well. Here in the SEC. Getting production out of Coleman, Taylor, a couple other guys. Tonight they play number 20 Mizzou. Big game.
Aggies are favored. 4.5.
At home. That's a good deal.
Makes you nervous, doesn't it? Being favored by 4.5.
It does a little bit, and especially against the top 25 team in Mizzou. But I think it's got a lot to say about what Buzz has done so far with his team. One of the things that he has had to fight through is this roster is turned over basically every year for the last 3-4 years, right?
Right.
And so it takes him a period of time at the beginning of the season to sort of get everybody playing on the same page, figuring out what his rotations are and all those types of things. I spoke to Buzz this morning, excited about where the team is and looking forward to tonight's game.
Yeah.
But they're playing well right now.
They are playing well. Dexter Dennis doing really well. Did I say it right? Dexter Dennis.
Yeah.
He's doing well. Marble, the transfer from Michigan State, is doing really well. Another big body. It seems like he's trimmed down the rotation. So he's getting more out of the starters than he is out of the back end of it. I mean, this is the same A&M team that lost at home to Wofford.
Yeah.
So, being favored against Missouri, it's something. We beat LSU handily, start to finish.
Look, two guys
on the road.
Two guys that we thought at the beginning of the season would probably have bigger roles in Gordon and Obaseki.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That we thought would have bigger roles, aren't having quite as big a role. But I think they do play important roles, especially Gordon, because of the time that he's in there. He does help that team out with his leadership and the different things. Even when he's on the bench, leadership and all those things come through from him.
The thing about Buzz's teams are always high energy.
Yeah.
Gordon, Obaseki, big parts of that. You can see them when they get in there. Sometimes they need to bring that energy down a little bit. It looks like they're a little bit too excited, especially Obaseki.
Yeah.
But Obaseki is very talented. I did expect more out of him this year.
I wouldn't be surprised as the year goes on, maybe he gets a little more playing time.
I don't know. It seems like he's starting to get Dennis, Taylor, Boots, Marble, Coleman. That's his five-man rotation. Right? That's who he wants, and then he's rotating other guys in and out. But for right now, I think Obaseki's. He's in the rotation, 7-8 man.
A&M baseball obviously got a little time to start. I think February is their starting time. They go and play at Minute Maid in that tournament this year, which will be a fun deal. That's always a very good tournament with good teams that gives you a good early showing of where your team stands. But I actually had a chat with one of the prominent players on this team yesterday, and man, they are really, really excited about getting this season going. He was talking to me about how much fun this team had last year. And he's also talking to me about how much work they've been putting in the offseason, getting ready for the season to start. I think this team has an opportunity to have a nice, very, very nice run this year. like last year.
Well, last year they surprised people. Nobody knew what to expect. I mean, they knew the coach coming in was, but they didn't know the roster. He turned over the roster a lot, and this year he's got a lot of players coming back. I mean, I think they're preseason number 4.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to surprise people when you're preseason number 4.
Less surprised. I will say this. He said a lot of pieces coming in with regards to the pitching staff, and so that's obviously going to have a big impact on where some of those new faces end up coming in and how much they can contribute. But they're excited about a lot of those guys.
Right.
And obviously we'll talk more baseball as the season gets started. Moving on to football, a couple of roster updates. Layden announces he's coming back. I think that's a big get. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Lucas announced his entering in the transfer portal. We mentioned it last show, and it happened later that day, right?
Yeah.
We kind of thought that he was that one guy that still...
He was like on the 50-50 guy, kind of, Is it a huge loss?
I think they're all big losses because they're all talented. However, at defensive line, we talked about it last week, we've got depth, and we still have some depth. And the top-end talent is definitely there. He was part of that. I think he's more of a tweener, inside-outside kind of guy than they used him more of as a defensive end. But I thought Stewart ended up playing better than he did, and then some of the other guys that are a little bit more athletic and sort of explosive, like Silla, like Overton, would end up taking a lot of those minutes at the defensive end. But you can never underestimate the need for depth, quality depth in this league.
And we showed we needed it last year in different positions, not so much the D-line, but even the D-line. Our D-line, we had a lot of guys go in and out.
Oh, yeah, with injuries and everything else.
Yeah.
A couple of announcements on where people are going. Guys transferring from A&M. Gross Killebrew to Louisville. Smoke going to Georgia. Ish Harris to U of H. Denver Harris to LSU. Some of these we already knew. Terry Lee, Georgia Southern. Marcus Burris to Indiana. I thought that was a pretty good get for Indiana.
Right.
I expect Marcus Burris to be a big-time performer over there. I mean, they don't get those kinds of players. He didn't get much playing time here, but he's a player. P.J. Williams, L.J. Johnson, both tests. I mean, anything stick out?
No, you haven't got to the one I was really excited about. The Zach Calzada.
And then a couple more. Eli Stowers to New Mexico State, another Aggie school, by the way. The New Mexico State Aggies. So Eli Stowers is going to stay with the Aggies. Adelier to Michigan State. And Calzada transferred to Auburn last year. He's going to Incarnate Word, where I'm pretty sure he's going to get a start.
That confuses me. Why would you go from A&M to Auburn? Which, I mean, I can understand those two.
Yeah.
To Incarnate Word.
I think he wants to play.
I think he can play anywhere. I mean, he showed he can play on the biggest. I mean, he played against Alabama. He beat Alabama.
He did. People have lost confidence in him. And you know what happens is with these kids, they end up in a bad situation, playing poorly in a bad situation. And they don't necessarily get that next shot at the biggest programs because people don't have that same confidence as when he came out as a recruit, right? People have seen him not be as productive, whether it's here, and then obviously he didn't play because of injury at all at Auburn. But at the end of the day, folks have sort of said, and so it's probably better for him to go to a lower level and go try to just ball out.
I hope he goes there for a year and maybe can go to a bigger school because the guy's got a crazy arm. I mean, he's got a cannon.
I'd have called up Western Kentucky. Do I say that about every quarterback?
Oh, man, Western Kentucky, that'd be great. I think Calzada would fit in because they don't look for a mobile quarterback so much. They want a guy that throws the ball down the field. Hey, Zach, give Western Kentucky a call.
Give him a call.
Seriously.
Anything else that stands out to you on any of this? We did pick up a transfer from Rice, a linebacker, walk-on. But he played at Rice substantially. He'll add depth at linebacker. He's not going to be that big-time star, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
but he's a depth piece that's needed at that position.
Yeah, we need depth, but I mean, it's not something that makes me woohoo. But
hey, look, he's probably going to be a contributor on special teams. He's probably going to, like I said, give you definitely some practice time at the linebacker spot so that you can actually have a practice.
Yeah.
So I think you have to add those kind of guys. We've talked about the transfer portal and who else we're still targeting. They're targeting a number of receivers. One of the guys from USC is visiting this week. a former USC receiver. And they've targeted a couple of other guys. But, when you think about it, if you're somebody in the transfer portal right now, and A&M is sitting there with that roster that they have, we've got our starters, maybe at every position except for one of the linebacker spots probably. We've got our starters. You're not going to have a chance to come in and play a ton, right? No. You're going to be more of a backup. So now if you're a transfer guy that's leaving somewhere else because you want more playing time, more exposure, why would you choose A&M knowing that?
Well, linebacker, I think you can get on the field.
Linebacker, you can. But I'm saying aside from linebacker, any other position, you're not going to get on the field that much.
If you're an athlete, I played sports. You play sports. You go out there to compete.
Sure.
You want to play against the best. And at A&M, hopefully we do have some of the best athletes in the U.S. in college football.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you come out here and say, hey, I want to compete with these guys. And maybe I'm not as good. Let's see. I want to see how good I am.
Well,
you hear people talking.
But these are the same guys that are leaving their current situation because they can't get playing time.
Where does Stetson Bennett go? Do you remember the story? He went to they told me he wasn't good enough. You weren't good enough. The guy's won 2 national championships.
Stetson Bennett, I'd take him on my team any day of the week.
You would now?
I would.
What would you have done a couple of years ago when you were hearing all this stuff? I don't know if you would have.
I still would have.
I don't believe it.
Guy's got heart.
He's got 2 rings.
He's got 2 rings, too. He's also been the MVP of every playoff game he's played in.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get enough credit. And we're going to talk more national championship. My point is that if you're sitting out there, you're leaving a program because they're not giving you enough playing time.
Yeah.
Right? They're not giving you enough playing time. So
is that why you're leaving them?
You've already said, the heck with competing for playing time. Let me go find a place to start. Well, if you can't start here, why would you come here? Now, guys maybe from lower programs that have had really big years that think that they can come in and compete here, that might be the target that you're looking for, a wide receiver that's played at a lower level that's put up big numbers, and now he wants to see if he can do it in the SEC.
I can see that.
Yeah, maybe that guy. But if you're sitting over at USC and you couldn't get playing time, and all of a sudden you're looking at, okay, can I transfer to A&M? They're recruiting me.
Yeah.
Well, look at all these guys that I'm competing with. Why would I go there? Because I can find a place where I know I'm the best guy.
Yeah, it's like incarnate work.
Like incarnate work.
Okay, now you asked me a question a little bit ago about,
or any other big time program other than A&M, Georgia.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You asked me a question about guys like who left that stood out. Mm-hmm. I told you Terrion Lee stood out to me because he's going to Georgia Southern. He got on the field last year, played linebacker. Yeah. And you were saying about playing time. This wasn't a playing time issue. Yeah. Because he was on the field. You and I were surprised sometimes that he was on the field. We were surprised that Russell was on the field because we thought it was going to be White and Cooper for most of the season, but instead it was
Russell
Lee.
Played more than either one of them probably.
Yeah. I mean, he stayed healthy. Yeah. But, I mean, Lee was on the field. And, when you go to Georgia Southern, you're not going to be playing against SEC competition. Not even close.
But in today's world, if your goal is maybe even if your goal is to get to the NFL, let's say. Yeah. In today's world, you're probably better off going somewhere that you're going to be on the field and going to be able to make plays because they find them no matter what little small school they go play at, right?
They do.
I mean, how many guys from these small schools are getting drafted these days and even drafted early, right?
Man, look at the guy from Tech. I mean, he transferred from A&M, went to Tech, and now he's a first-round pick.
Tech is a D1 program in the Big 12.
But I'm just saying that he was not getting PT here at A&M. Right. You see him? I mean, coaches overlook him.
But I'm talking about a guy like Lee going to Incarnate Word. Let's say he shows up at Incarnate Word.
You're talking about Calzada?
No. I'm talking about Lee going to Georgia Southern. Let's say he shows up at Georgia Southern. He's all-world, all-conference at Georgia Southern. He's going to get drafted.
You think?
Yeah. If he's an all-conference linebacker at Georgia Southern, he'll probably get drafted.
Oh, you're saying all-conference linebackers get drafted. I disagree with you.
No, maybe not. Maybe he doesn't. But if he's, I just said all-world, all-conference. Okay. Making big plays, has a lot of sacks and interceptions, whatever. He has the best linebacker year in the history of college football. But he does it at Georgia Southern. Okay. He's going to go.
Yeah. He might.
Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Another person that
I like to play
stood out to me was LJ going to SMU. I think that's a great situation for LJ. Yeah. If that offense moves the ball. I mean, they do run the ball. You don't see it because of all but that offense is wide open. I think he's going to enjoy that a lot.
So it's going to be the Bobby Petrino show for a lot of this show, by the way. We haven't had a chance to really talk about this hire. Let me start by saying this. Bobby Petrino was not at Arkansas when they were doing that whole wild hog with McFadden and Jones.
Right.
Your boy Billy Lucci over at Texags is talking about how innovative he is with how he implemented this deal. That was not Bobby Petrino. Okay, that was Houston Nutt.
Houston.
So let's start there.
Yeah.
As far as the hiring, we're gonna take do our little DraftKings read here in a second. But as far as the hire is concerned, just first thoughts in your head when you heard. When I think I called you and said Bobby Petrino just got hired.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Honestly, it wasn't the excitement that I wanted to have. I mean, I wanted somebody that was proven. I mean, he's proven himself in college football, but I wanted somebody that was a marquee name that you and I talked about, like the guy from Carolina, somebody from maybe TCU.
Somebody that's had recent success.
Yeah. And somebody that's younger, that's fresh, something fresh. I mean, this is fresh face. But at the same time, I'm the more I read about it and the more I look into it, the more excited I'm getting.
Yeah.
But
so I'm gonna share my thoughts a little bit more. I'm gonna share my thoughts a little bit more, but after this. But first, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is my go-to when betting on the NFL this holiday season. I love the big parlays. I love the teasers. You know me, man.
Yeah.
Anything with those odds, man.
Yeah.
And you get in there, you can make small bets and win big money.
Yeah, big money.
Big money.
Big money. That's the one that gets you right there is the big money.
Big money.
All you need to do is hit one.
Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do.
Pretty good.
Check this out, Corey. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, point totals, and more. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. I can't tell you how much I love to win those big parlays.
I know you like to bet them.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code TPPN. Place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TPPN. There you go, folks. Don't forget, use your DraftKings. Corey,
Par, maybe you should try that, Par.
Try that out.
Yeah, kick on third.
Here's the other one. Let's remind everybody, we're now on the Pigskin Podcast Network.
There you go.
Check us out. Look them up.
Yep.
Our stuff is on there. You can reach us that way. All right. So let's get back to Bobby Petrino, Corey.
Let's get after it.
Look, he's had a long history here, right? I mean, he has 2 stints at Louisville. He's got, a stint at Arkansas in the SEC.
Okay.
Right? And then after that, he went back to Louisville, and Louisville sort of kicked him to the curb. And then he's sort of been in obscurity over the last couple of years, right? All right. He did have some success at Louisville, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had some success at Louisville. His first time around, we're talking about 2003. They came in, and they were known for their offensive success and the things that they were doing back in 2003, right? 35 points a game one year.
It's 20 years ago.
In 2004, they scored 50 a game, right? These are the years where he was really 543 a game, and he's done it with different cast of characters.
Right.
Whether it was the quarterback Brom or there was a Stephen LaFours or, different guys. He's done it with good running backs. Michael Bush, right?
Michael Bush, yeah.
He's done it with, some quarterbacks that have been mobile. Obviously, Lamar Jackson in his second stint at Louisville drove that offense to success. I mean, the ridiculous numbers that he put up. I mean, his second and third year after his freshman year, made them one of the best offenses in the league. But he's a world-changing athlete, right?
Right.
I like all that. except for the fact that what are we talking about here? We're talking about offenses from 2003
Yeah,
to
20 years ago. We're talking, I mean, if you told me we got 20 years ago Bobby Petrino, I'd have been like, yes, win. You're telling me we got him 20 years later.
Yeah, it's a different story because if you start looking at some of his more recent
Well, what happens?
times.
Things evolve. Everything evolves. I mean, just like the passing games evolve.
Oh, yeah.
The running game's changing. It's not as much of a running. You see more play action now.
Yeah.
You see more. Everybody lines up in the shotgun. That used to be something new. It's like, what are they doing? They're lining up in the shotgun. I mean, the schools like Army and Navy and Air Force, they're running the ball like it's still back in the 60s, 70s. That's about it.
And look, his last year at Louisville, by the way, in 2018, he scored 20 points a game after Lamar Jackson left, right?
Yeah.
In the more recent years, in Missouri, at Missouri State, he had one good year in 3 years there. In his most recent times, he's been sort of up and down. He doesn't, and let's get into specifics with his offense, right? And you look at what he does. He never has those like super exceptional big time receivers. He never, but somehow those offenses are still very productive. It's even crazy to me because and I think this is a compliment to him. They really spread the ball around the different players, which is why those guys don't ever put up huge numbers.
I mean, he had Devontae Parker, right? Was that who it was?
Devontae Parker.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't know who else he had on the roster that's a huge name, but Devontae Parker's a talent. He was really talented coming out.
And he had 855 yards that year.
I mean, I don't know if there's injuries involved or not. But
I think there was a couple of games missed.
But either way, Parker's, I've drafted him in fantasy. Been screwed over with him because he's been injured.
Yeah.
But either way, he's a talent.
Oh, yeah.
But that's one thing. Petrino knows how to get the ball downfield. I mean, his offenses they're not as predictable as what Jimbo's been lately.
So here's a couple of things that I will say. Look, they will distribute the ball. They will distribute the ball. Mm-hmm. And they're going to get the ball to different folks. And let me start with this, and I think this is the most important. This offense is going to be better than last year's, right? This offense with Petrino, in Petrino's system, will be better than last year's Jimbo system. It's not saying much. It's not saying much.
That's not saying much at all. I could go in there and coach it and be better.
But it's better than the alternative of Jimbo having said, no, I'm just keeping this thing on my and calling the plays, right?
Well, I mean, either way, I don't think the offense could be as bad as the last 2 years.
That's true. So it is going to be better under Petrino. When you look at what he does, it is not, let's not talk about like this innovative, super, like modern offense. That's not, he's a 2003 guy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where he made his heyday. That offense is the same as what they were running back then in 2003, by the way.
Right.
It still is. He's implemented a little bit of sort of some of the wide receiver sweep type stuff with a little bit of motion and stuff like that. But the reality is that offense, the basis of that offense is still the same of what they were running back then. Where you're going to get the improvement from Jimbo to Petrino, because once again, neither one of these two guys is incredibly innovative or modern, right?
Right.
Where you're going to get the improvement is that in Jimbo's system, we talked about it all year, all the last couple of years, that it is so complex. And there's so many in-play, post-snap reads for quarterbacks, for the linemen. There are so many things that the players aren't playing, they're thinking too much, right?
Right.
With Petrino, the one thing I'll give him is a lot more pre-snap reads and decisions and a lot simpler post-snap reads and plays, right?
Gotcha.
So for them, I think that's going to be the key. It's going to be playing faster, right? And
is he an up-tempo guy or is he...
He's not a super up-tempo guy, but he's a lot more up-tempo than Jimbo.
I mean, he knows what he wants to run. He's got the play in. It's not over there looking through a sheet.
Right. And obviously we're going to get the benefit of the fact that Jimbo is not going to be doing 800 different things, like you said, looking through a book to choose a play and talking to his quarterback, and on,
Right.
which means less of the early timeouts, less of the penalties, pre-snap penalties, the false starts, and all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
You're simplifying the offense to a certain extent, less formation issues, right? Some different things of that nature that you're going to get a natural benefit from just having a separate offense coordinator from your head coach.
Because I have a couple questions.
Uh-huh.
Is he more run-based or passing? Is he 50-50, 40-60? What would you say?
With him,
Does he play by the strengths?
another thing that's actually a positive comment on Petrino is that he does play to his talent.
That's what I'm saying. Because I didn't see Jimbo do that so much.
So, if he's had on several occasions big-time running backs that have run for 1,700 yards or 1,200, 1,300 yards.
Bush,
right? Yeah, some of those guys. So, obviously, Lamar Jackson and the things he did running the football as a quarterback.
Right.
I mean, he led the nation in rushing, right? And so he's adapted depending on what that talent is and where those guys are successful. I'll say the thing that I like the most, and I think is going to benefit this offense the most, is the fact that he believes in getting the ball down the field.
Okay.
Right? And so
when you say downfield, you're talking 20 yards or more, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody understands 20 yards because down the field, some people are like 40 yards, 50. But I'm thinking 20 yards plus is down the field to me.
How often did we sit in there and with Jimbo, you're looking at, whatever down it is, it doesn't really matter. And the defense sits in there, has got all these guys in the box, and they've got the corners pressed up, and Jimbo's trying to throw a 5-yard out, and of course they can't complete it because there's no room, or they're getting quick pressure because they can't get rid of the ball because they haven't done anything, right? All that happens because of the fact that you're sitting in there playing right into their scheme, right? Mm-hmm. So with Petrino's system, the first thing you're going to see is those guys are doing that, and you got a one-on-one receiver matchup on the outside with a guy pressed. He's gonna go deep. Period. Because no questions asked.
Okay, you're talking about his running backs and his wide receivers that he's done. A strength of our team is tight ends.
Yeah.
Is he going to get the ball to the tight ends? I mean, we have.
That'll be interesting. He plays tight ends. He's always used tight ends. Usually, he's in
run a 4-wide.
He's an 11 personnel, one tight end, one tailback. That's his bread and butter, right?
Gotcha.
Now he does use some 2 tight end, and oftentimes even uses them sometimes as backs. As fullbacks type guys. Mm-hmm. So he does some of those things, but the tight end has never been the focal point of their offense.
Right.
I think that is a piece that he does need to implement even more now, right? With the talent we have at tight end.
Who are the tight ends again?
Green, Johnson, and Max Wright, who announced he's coming back.
We
forgot to announce that.
That's why I was getting to
Max Wright. By the way, that's great news for this team.
Right.
Getting a guy who's a leader. Who's a leader on this team. He
impressed the hell out of me this year.
And made plays.
Yeah. I mean, I was expecting him to come in and do the blocking and some of the dirty stuff, but he went downfield, caught some passes.
Made some plays.
Showed some hands.
If
that would have been him out there on that last play that we had.
Blake Smith?
Yeah. I think Max has a better. Yeah. You don't throw a guy the ball that didn't been in the damn game.
No, man. No. And I think so. I agree with you. I think that's a huge, huge deal. And by the way, it's the right decision for him because he ain't getting drafted, right? He ain't going to go play pro. Right. So what else? Why not?
Now, here's another question. Okay, you bring in a Bobby Petrino to be your offensive coordinator. Do these young high school kids that are coming in, they know who the hell he is? Do you see what I'm saying?
Really.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because I've heard different aspects that he's recruiting is not a big thing for him.
Right. He's not a huge recruiter. Right.
Now the players that are here, are they going? Who is this guy? Let's go watch tape. Is this going to affect how I play? Is this going to affect, like you said, he's not big on the receivers. Yeah. Is that going to affect Stewart? Is that going to affect Anias if he comes back? Is it going to affect Muhammad?
I think the guys that are currently here, I think it's not going to affect because they're going to see some of the things that he's done. I think that they're already starting to show them, hey, look, this is what we're talking about. We're going to give you guys an opportunity to go down the field. We're going to go give you opportunities to make plays one-on-one and those type of things. And I think for the receivers specifically, that's something that should be very attractive, right, compared to a previous system. And so, to me, I don't think it affects the guys on the field. I think the question is with recruits.
Right.
And what's going to happen is what happens this coming year. If this offense comes out this coming year and just absolutely blows up,
people are going to go.
Kids are going to say, heck yeah, let's go there.
Yeah.
Right? If it doesn't, they're going to say, this is the same old, right? And so production eventually is the ultimate decider. I mean, it's part of the decision making in the recruiting process, right?
Right. Because I've seen us with a three-headed monster at tailback, pretty much, maybe at least two.
Yeah. I'd say three-headed monster at tailback.
Offensive line should be a lot better. I'm looking for more of an offensive line that I saw against LSU than I am the rest of the season. Because
Here's the other thing, though. Not even just individually better. Petrino's system with less complications and checks and the fact that they're going to be able to do some things down the field is going to make job easier on the offensive line, right?
But where I'm getting to, we watched that national championship game the other night. I'm not saying we're Georgia's offense, but I don't see why we can't mimic a lot of what they did. They didn't do a whole lot of fancy. They did some.
Right. No.
Misdirections, but I'm saying with the offensive line that's better, a good running game. Play action was huge in that Georgia game, was it not? Yeah. Is he going to do some play action? Is he going to get a chance? I mean, I think you have to, don't you?
I think you do have to. I'll say this.
That's one of our strengths.
That is not the basis of his system, though, right? Like just the run the ball, play action. That's not it, right? And so like I said, this is general. Because he does do some specialty plays and this and that, and adds wrinkles.
Right.
The thing about it is generally his thing is pre-snap matchups.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
What are the numbers at? Mm-hmm. What's the defense doing here? Right? But it's pre-snap and then we're gonna go.
Right.
And so that's more that than just scheming out. And we'll talk more about Georgia here in a second, but that's just
I wasn't trying to get off subject. Right? I was just saying.
But I see what you're saying.
How they did that at Georgia, it was. I mean, TCU was off balance the whole game. Their defense just. I mean, I don't know if Georgia punted the whole game. I don't remember if they did or not. But it was crazy.
In the second half, they finally punted.
Well, I mean, it was crazy how. I mean, the play action. You and I were like, oh man, look at the defense. You were stopping, rewinding the TV every 5 minutes, going, look what he did here. Look what he did here.
Yeah. And so when you look at Petrino,
it's very annoying, by the way.
At least what he's done in the past, mind you.
Yeah.
When you look at Petrino, what he's done, he's not big into like a lot of the misdirection, motion, funky schematic stuff. That's not who he is. Does he use a little bit of motion? Yeah, he uses some motion.
I think misdirection is huge. I mean, look what Georgia did the other night.
Yeah.
Misdirection on TCU because they were being too aggressive.
But that's my point.
You have to be.
He's not one of these modern, innovative, modern coaches, right?
That's the problem.
Innovative may be the wrong word because in his own head he's innovating from his own system, right? But he's not like one of these more modern type cases, which is what a lot of the Aggie fans wanted to see. Well, that's not what we're going to get, but we're going to get better production. We will be better on offense. And we'll talk about exactly how much better here in just a little bit. So, final thoughts on the Petrino hire.
Well, the more we talk about it, the more excited I get.
Yeah.
But either way, with the players returning, I'm excited.
Yeah.
We have, we're losing A-Chain. That's huge. But the rest of it, there's 90% of our offense is back.
Yeah.
I don't see how you cannot be excited about that. Nias is still up in the air. I think an offensive coordinator who understands what our weaknesses were last year, if he watched our team play and sat there and if he sat here with us and says the same stuff we said, if he does just a little bit different, just a little bit, don't get away from the running game. I mean, how many times did we say last year? 3 and out. We threw the ball 3 times.
Or go to the running game.
Yeah, I mean, it's no sense in doing a play action when the team knows you're not going to freaking run the ball. So, I'm more excited. But I'm not – I'd say the hire right now, C+. Yeah. That's my grade.
So my final thoughts on this are this. With this roster, with the talent at wide receiver, Stewart, Moose, Thomas, maybe Anias, Preston, the talent at tight end, Green, Max Wright, Johnson.
Don't forget the running backs coming out of the backfield.
Running back, and he will use the running backs out of the backfield.
Yeah,
and with Daniels, Moss, Reuben Owens, the freshman. I think with that level of talent, I think his offense and the matchup-based offense that he runs is going to produce a lot of good results. I really do. I think so. Now, here's the question is, when you face off against a team that is just as talented as you are, the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world.
Right.
There's not a lot of those teams, by the way.
Yeah.
Then how does that play out? I think it makes it a little bit murkier. Right?
Man, I think you have to be a smart coach and go with, like you said, your strengths. But now you have to look at last season. What were the problems? Our offensive line wasn't giving our quarterback time to get the ball downfield or even go through his progressions. So what do? You have to run something different, like your misdirection. If they're bringing the house at you, throw a screen, right?
Sure.
Did we do that much last year?
No.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, do stuff to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand quick to make that defense pay.
And so we'll see more detail, obviously, as the season goes on about what he does in certain situations and some of the wrinkles that come into play there. But like I said, it'll be a faster moving offense. It'll be a better offense. It'll be a cleaner offense. It'll be a simpler offense, and they're going to throw the ball down the field more. All those things I think are positives. We'll see how that plays out. I think with our level of talent, it really ends up being a benefit.
So what do you think the higher is? An A, a B, a C? What are you giving it?
I just thought that there were better guys out there, and for that reason, I'll give it a B minus.
I gave it a C plus,
C plus, somewhere close. Yeah, it's in the.
I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, it could be. I hope it turns into an A, but.
The other thing to consider is the fact that he's older, and so I think he's looking for his last big job, right?
Yeah.
And if they have a big year this year, I'm pretty sure he's going to be taking a head coaching job somewhere else.
Right.
Let's talk about the Natty.
Yeah,
let's talk about the Natty. And you brought up Georgia.
Oh.
Obviously playing TCU here. Look, this game was over in the first quarter.
Beginning of the second, somewhere in there. Yeah.
There was one clearly dominant team and one not dominant team.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's huge. And we talked about it before the game. What TCU not so much got lucky against Michigan, but things rolled their way.
They did.
2 pick sixes, a fumble on the goal line, a touchdown called back because the guy was in the end zone.
So let me change that narrative, because to me this game was more about the fact that Georgia just came out and did it. This was about Georgia. This was not about TCU. I think TCU's a really good team that would beat a lot of people, beat Michigan, beat a lot. I
like Sonny Dykes a lot. I like him a lot.
I think that's a good team with good coaching, and it's a very good team, right?
Yeah.
Georgia just came with they were different attitude, different level of play, different level of player. They were focused beyond all recognition, and there wasn't anybody going to beat them that day.
What were you most impressed with Georgia?
The offensive scheme.
God, it was great, wasn't it? Just watching what they did and how they executed.
You want to talk about
execution? You hear that word from Jimbo, but geez,
but
get guys like that Bauer kid.
Not only that, listen to this. And, everybody thinks about modern offenses and creative offenses, and they think the spread, they think Mike Leach, rest in peace, they think all these other things, right? I mean, that's what they're looking at. Oh, these guys are hold on just a second. Because what Georgia did this past week in that national championship game, that was creative, that was modern, and they did it out of 2 tight end sets with a tailback. I mean, to me, that right there is the offense that you would. If I had a guy that I wanted to hire, number one on my list, the guy who put that scheme together.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I was getting to when we were talking about it. But I want to lead into your Georgia talk.
Yeah,
that's the kind of offensive coordinator I want. The guy. I mean, he had 3 different running backs touch the ball in the game. He ran some, quarterback.
Four once the freshman got in there in the fourth quarter.
Okay, there you go.
The freshman that's going to be incredibly good.
Well, the whole team is going to be incredibly good. They got 5 stars, top 4. I mean, they're going to be.
He's a freshman at 5'10", 220.
Yeah,
and scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
I mean, they have the talent, no question. Yeah. But the scheme they put with that talent, that's what
Correct.
We have to get to here.
That's the difference, right? And it was little things, and we talked about this play, man. I remember they ran that little wide receiver screen out to the left-hand side.
And the guy he ran to
the offensive lineman, they have one offensive lineman break out over there.
He stayed back and watched him looking.
Stay behind the line watching the quarterback, because the quarterback's first read was the default.
Downfield. Yeah.
So they didn't want an offensive lineman down the field.
It was a left guard, wasn't there?
Boom, boom, boom. It was the left tackle. And so they sit in there. Boom, they look at it. Of course, TCU's only rushing 3 because they can protect with 4.
Yeah.
And the moment they see, man, they dropped them all, whoop, swing it out.
And that receiver
would have cut behind that offensive lineman.
Big play.
And it was a big play.
I mean, it still was, yeah. But I mean, just the other throw, the couple passes he made to Bowers. I mean, Bowers made some great catches, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But still using Bowers in Washington, big 0.
Oh, 0.
And then you got those other receivers, McConkle, number 84, and they had number 6.
Dude, what they do with that, in that one touchdown, McConkle, wide open in the end zone, right? And it's just a little thing where they're doing, they bunch them up and they do and they bring the 2 inside and then they bring him on the wheel on the other side. And it's just little things. The way he runs the route, really faking that underneath, boom, and they sit, and they've got the back coming
underneath.
The play
action, like you said, the play action during the game, I mean, because they ran the ball enough to keep the defense honest. And then, what did TCU do? What did they run? What kind of defense?
They ran the 3-3, and so that's what they've done all year, and it works for them in the Big 12, and it works for them against a lot of people. But the one thing that I will say about what Georgia did, and I talked to you about it before the game started, I said, look, if they want to dominate this defense, they'll use play action, they'll use misdirection, and they'll use motion. Why? Because that 3-3 is based off of an extremely aggressive play from your linebackers and your safeties. Right? That's how they make up for the lack of numbers up front.
Right.
And so those guys have to react and go. And so if you show them something, they're moving.
Safeties were out of place a lot.
And all day long, to start the game, Georgia did it. Play after play. Boom, boom, boom. Big play, big play, big play. And once that happened, TCU never recovered.
Yeah.
But you were with me watching that football game. I could not have been more impressed with a scheme. I could not have been more impressed with a quarterback. I thought Bennett was phenomenal.
Right.
The dude did not make a bad decision. I mean, and don't get me wrong, they make it easy for him sometimes. But, I mean, even when they had pressure on him a little bit.
Yeah, he's always looking down.
Which wasn't a lot. I mean, the guy had all day.
He didn't seem rushed.
No.
You know what I'm saying? He seemed very composed back there. And, of course, he's the oldest quarterback in college football, but he's very composed. I had a question for you. What do you think about Carter, defensive line? Possibly the number 1 pick overall.
We talked to him about him after the game with Ohio State, and I thought he was invisible against Ohio State. And I thought the offensive line for Ohio State just absolutely dominated him. So I wasn't really impressed. He played a much better game against TCU, but the right guard for TCU was horrible. Remember, he was getting beat every play, and it was Carter. But it wasn't just because Carter was was doing all these amazing things. That most of the time is because he was sitting there leaning and they couldn't even see where the damn guy he's blocking is and fell off a block, right?
Right.
The guy was horrendous. I'm surprised they haven't had more problems with him throughout the year. But the point being is he looked better.
Yeah.
He's not my number 1 pick, right? Maybe I take him later in the first round or something like that. As a player there somewhere, maybe in the second round, whatever. But he's not going to be my top half of the first round pick. He's not coming into my evaluation. Who looked real good was the freshman Bear Alexander, former A&M recruit. Right.
You said that the whole game.
And that dude was making some incredible plays. Not to mention he's a huge man for a freshman.
And that defense, I mean, I like the Georgia. I just wasn't overly impressed. I mean, they only gave up 7 points, but TCU's back was against the wall. Max Duggan looked.
He didn't play his best game, right? No. He missed a bunch of receivers, open guys throughout the game. I mean, that would have made the game. I'm not going to say that they were going to compete, but they would have made the game more competitive, right? Right. Especially even the first drive. He had the throw on second down over the top and overthrew him. On third down, he had the throw on the out and he skipped it, right? And so he just wasn't himself. And for some of that, there was some pressure involved for sure, but you've got to make some of those plays, and he didn't make any of them on Monday.
Yeah.
Not to say that Max Duggan's not a good player. The guy's had a phenomenal year, and good for him. But at the end of the day, on Monday, he didn't play well, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Second team defense for Georgia when they got in there in the second half, I thought they were more explosive as far as pass rush. The two young defensive ends that they brought in, the 2 freshmen, those dudes are going to be.
After.
Oh yeah, and I think those dudes are going to be game changers in the next.
Well, they have depth there. They have a lot of depth. They lost everybody last year on the defense, and still.
Here's a narrative that's been going on, and now So Georgia goes out and absolutely dominates TCU. Number one, it was a matchup thing, right?
Yeah.
TCU, that was a horrible matchup for TCU. TCU was never going to win that game.
Well, we didn't think they were going to beat Michigan.
Right. But they beat Michigan.
Yeah, but everything had to go their way for them.
They beat Michigan. Ohio State almost beat Georgia.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Sometimes it's the matchups, right?
Right. I would have loved to see Michigan, Georgia.
I think Ohio State and TCU would probably be a pretty good game. That's not as bad a matchup for TCU as Georgia is, right? Same with Michigan, even though they're more similar to Georgia. Michigan doesn't have some of the same on the outside, some of the same talent level, skill player wise, right? Especially with their number one tailback hurt. So I think it's more about matchups. But now there's this narrative now, TCU, like all the SEC would basically win the Big 12. They're not any good. SEC so much better as a conference than everybody else. Let me just say this. One team dominated college football this year. One. Yeah. It was Georgia. It wasn't the SEC. Nobody in the SEC, nobody else in the SEC could accomplish what Georgia accomplished and beat TCU the way they beat TCU.
Yeah.
At Texas, they want to talk about, well, Alabama also beat Kansas State. Beat the mess out of them. Yeah. You know what? Ole Miss got their butts beat by Texas Tech.
Right.
Now, when an SEC team loses, they say, oh, well, they weren't really excited to play. But when somebody else loses, then it's because we're so dominant. Yeah. This story is easy to say and to put out there. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, we've won a lot of different national championships with 3 different teams or 4 different teams. But every year that it's happened, it's been one dominant team, right? Georgia. Whether it was that dominant Alabama team, the dominant LSU team, and now you've seen Georgia do it 2 years in a row. By the way, Georgia, the preeminent program in the country right now, and going forward because Kirby Smart is the best coach in the country. Yeah. Including Nick Saban right now.
Oh, yeah. Nick Saban's like, number 3 or 4.
Number 2.
4. Okay.
But, I hate the fact that all of a sudden it's like, Mississippi State could have won the Big 12. No, they weren't. No, they couldn't. No. By the way, Alabama almost lost to Texas this year. Yeah. Should have lost to Texas this year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's multiple things that'll tell you and show you that's not the case.
Well, here on out, not next year, but the year after, we'll have a 12-team playoff. And do you like that or not? 12 teams? I like it. I'm the 4 because I want to see more matchups.
I wanted to see 8. I'll be honest with you, I wanted to see 8. But I'll take 12.
I just like the matchups. I want to see different matchups. I want to see what a team from the Pac-12 might put against a Georgia.
I do like the fact that all conferences are going to get in. We're going to get some more people to compete.
Right.
There's going to be some more of that going on.
I love the upsets. TCU beat Michigan.
I hate the fact that it takes a little bit away from the entire season, right? Because you get 2 losses, you'll probably still get in.
Yeah. Well, it might not hurt the Aggies.
It might not help the Aggies. So anyway, that's a narrative that I hate out there. Look, man, all props in the world to Georgia. Those dudes are killers, and they're going to come back next year, and they're going to be good again, even with Bennett gone and Washington and
I'll tell you what, they're going to have their hands full in the SEC East. Tennessee's going to be good.
Tennessee's going to be good.
Carolina.
Yeah, Rattler's coming back. He's announced.
Yeah, you got some. Kentucky, I think, will be down. Missouri's got to be getting better a little bit.
There's rumors that Kentucky might get their offensive coordinator from not this past season, but the season before back, which was a much better offense coordinator for them.
Well, they could have used him this year.
Yeah, they definitely could.
Florida should be, Florida's got talent. So, the SEC East is going to be decent.
Yeah, and the West, maybe not. So, we'll see.
The West will be good. A&M should win it.
Questions from the tailgate brought to you by Frida Homes, building Aggie dreams at FridaHomes.com. Everybody loves their Frida Homes. All right. Question number 1. Points per game for this Aggie offense in 2023. When it comes down to brass tacks, what are they going to score?
I got to look at their schedule again, but I say it's got to be closer to 30 points a game than 20.
I'm going to go with over 30 points a game. I'm going to go with 32 in the 32 range.
Okay.
And I do think that they're going to get a lot of benefit there. The problem that I see is that I'm not sure that defense is going to improve, right? I don't know what Durkin's planning on doing. but I expect him to use a lot of 3-man front and
So you're saying high-scoring games next year?
and screwing
Taking
things
the
up.
overs?
Yeah,
Didn't do that this year. All right.
So, but I'm gonna say for just Aggie offense with the hiring of Petrino, the fact that he simplifies the system, lets those players play a little bit more than think. I'm gonna go 32 points a game because I do believe in the talent.
I mean, right now I'm stuck on 30. I mean, I haven't. The talent is there. It was there last year. I think it was there the year before that. But 30 points. I'm having a hard time going over that. I'm thinking 28, 29, but that's 4 touchdowns. That's more than we
You
did
go
this year.
28, I go 32.
Stay at 30. There you go.
All right, question number 2. O-line gets Layden Robinson back, man. Tell me what you think about this O-line.
I think it's huge. I mean, Layden had a really down year this year. He's coming into the season projected as a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I don't know if after the season he talked to people and they said, "Hey, you're not getting drafted."
Yeah.
Or what happened? But with him,
He still got drafted.
I don't know. We've seen it happen last year with the tight end.
He'd have got drafted. He would have got drafted much lower than he should or was projected to be at the beginning of the year, but he'd have got drafted.
Either way, the offensive line, it's gone from a weakness. I think it could be a strength next year if we use them properly. You don't put them in situations where you have an 8-man front. You're trying to do something against that you can't do. You know what I'm saying? You use your tight ends, use your blockers. Yeah. Don't put it all on the freaking offensive line.
Yeah, look, I think this is huge, huge, huge. And look, I respect the guy whether he would have left or come back. Look, good for him. I wish him the best.
You bashed him all year.
He was horrible this year.
You bashed him
all
year.
I think it's the best decision he can make because I think for the offensive line, just like for the rest of the offense, things are going to simplify. Yeah. What's that going to mean? It means that all of a sudden they can play faster instead of just sitting there and slower, where they're getting beat schematically, not physically. Right?
They're all back, and they should be able to communicate better. They should know each other and know
all 5 back.
Yeah, plus Max Wright,
Fathery, right?
Yeah,
Layden, 2 centers, Foster and Wyckoff.
Good thing.
Yeah, both of those guys are physically gifted players that can do the job. Dewberry, Moko at guard, Zune at the left tackle. I mean, you've got talent, you've got depth on the offensive line all of a sudden.
And you got tight ends to help out.
You got to keep those guys there. You got good tight ends on the outside. These offensive linemen have now played together for a year. The communication should be better. The simplified scheme is going to help them do that. I expect this offensive line to be substantially better this coming year. And I think that Layden Robinson is going to end up benefiting a ton from coming back with regards to his draft prospects.
I want to see the coach come out and just get that offensive line pumped and just run the ball. I don't care who we play the first game. I can't remember who it is. I'm sure it's a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Let's get those running backs. Let's get the team. Because I think a running offensive line gets pumped up. You know this.
Oh, yeah. They love to run the football.
They want to be out there hitting people. They don't want to be the ones getting hit. Right. You want to hit them.
Yeah, you got to.
I want to see it this year. I didn't see it.
Yeah, you
tell LSU.
Did not see
LSU.
So I do think that the offensive line is going to be a lot better, and because of both things, not just the personnel, probably healthier personnel is good. They're back. They played longer, but also the scheme's going to be easier for them. It's going to be better for them. So I'm excited about the offensive line play. I'm an old offensive line coach. It's what I did. I will sit there and just nitpick on those guys all the time.
I know.
It's a beautiful thing, but I'm excited by that group.
Yeah, I am too. It was probably our worst unit last year, besides linebackers, maybe.
Maybe besides linebackers.
Yep.
Gig 'em Aggies, AP, C Money from the tailgate.
Till next
See y'all later.